Hello everybody and welcome. We are discussing the Jewish holiday Purim, which occurred March 23 and 24. Okay, so it actually occurred Saturday night, that just got done, March 23rd, and it continued all the way through Sunday. Sorry. I do apologize. I was answering a text message because somebody must have messaged me while I'm actually on the live. And I don't actually like being bothered when I'm actually live, just so you know. It's not something I like. I don't like being bothered when I'm actually on the live. It's not something that's cool. It's huge distraction, and it's not something I like. So anyway, we are going to be reading about the Purim holiday, which just actually ended. And I do apologize about this being late. I wanted to give this to you guys beforehand, but I couldn't. So, okay, so the festival of Purim is to commemorate the divinely orchestrated salvation. So that, in other words, the salvation of the Jewish people in the ancient Persian Empire during the time of Haman. Okay, so during that whole time of Haman, which is a Jewish hating descendant of Amalek, appointed by King Ahasuerus to the prime minister of the Persian Empire, he plotted to annihilate the Jews, but was thwarted by Mordecai and Esther. So in the story of Esther, basically, is this whole area of Haman's plot to destroy, kill, and annihilate the Jews. Okay. As always, my best buddy is sitting yapping while I'm actually on the live, because they don't realize how quick I go to do the lives. Okay. Anyway, Haman. So in the story, this is the story of Esther. Basically, they're talking about. Okay, how God divinely orchestrated the salvation of the Jewish people in the time of Haman, which was the one that stood against Esther, Queen Esther, in the Bible. Okay, and so now my buddy's here. She can stop messaging me and distracting me while I'm on the live. Okay. Anyway, young and old, infants and women in a single day. So it's celebrated with some readings, with Jewish readings that would be, known as Megillah, then, or if I'm saying it right, gifts of food, so exchanging food gifts, charity feasting, so feasting for a charitable cause, and merriment, meaning happy times. So we're going to learn all about the Purim basics. So what is Purim? We're going to look at that. What is expected at a Purim party? Okay. We're going to look at the sending food gifts. I'm pretty sure we don't need to know the whole story of Purim, but basically Purim is the celebration of what occurred when God delivered the Jews through Queen Esther, out of being fully destroyed. So that's the basic idea. And they have lots of other stuff on this site. I'm telling you, this Shabbat site is really good if you really want to study the Jewish culture. Audio, the Feast of Esther is what they call it, the Feast of Esther. I don't think we really need to get into that all that much, and then some of the foods. So we'll just get into the basics. So the first, what is Purim? The jolly Jewish holiday of Purim is celebrated every year on the 14th of the Hebrew month of Adar. This is late winter, early spring. Purim begins this year, Saturday, March 23rd at sunset, goes to Sunday, March 24th at sunset, which just ended, actually, because it's the 25th now, extending all the way through Monday. So even though it's a Monday now, this would extend all the way through Monday in Jerusalem. So even in Jerusalem right now, it's still Purim celebration. Okay, so you haven't missed it all the way. It commemorates, like I said, it's in celebration of the salvation in the story of Esther, that God delivered the Jewish people out of Haman's idea to destroy them. Okay, and Purim was thus named since Haman had thrown lots to determine when he would carry out this diabolical scheme. So bets or whatever. So the basic story is in the Persian Empire in the 4th century before Christ, extended 127 lands, and all the Jews were its subjects. They were slaves to it. When King Ahasuerus and his wife, Queen Vashti, okay, that's the one that, if you read the story, that's the Vashti lady who's like, the king orders you to come, and no, I don't want to come. I don't want to go. I'm too good. So she was executed. She was killed for failing to follow his orders, because you cannot. When a king gave his orders, that's final. And so he arranged a beautiful banquet to find a new queen, and a Jewish girl named Esther found favor in his eyes and became the new queen. Though she refused to divulge her nationality, she didn't tell him what race she was. Okay. Meanwhile, the Jew-hating Haman was made prime minister of the empire. Mordecai, the leader of the Jews, which is Esther's cousin, defied the king's orders and refused to bow to Haman. So this gives you evidence of the fact that God only wants you to obey the world, meaning obey the authority in the world, as long as that authority does not make you stand against God. So the moment that the king ordered, hey, you will bow to me, that's bowing and worshiping, which is you're not allowed to do. So this is why they refused. Haman was angry, meaning incensed, and he convinced the king to issue a decree ordering the extermination of all Jews on the 13th of Adar, a date chosen by a lottery. Okay, Mordecai, who's the cousin, the head of the Jews, gathered all the Jews together, convincing them to repent, fast, and pray to God. Meanwhile, Esther, asking the king and Haman to join her, both of them, to join in a feast. And at that feast, Esther revealed to the king her Jewish identity. Haman was then hanged, and the story goes Haman was actually hanged by the very device that he had created to kill Mordecai with. Okay? And Mordecai was appointed prime minister, so Mordecai ended up taking Haman's place. Okay? And a new decree was issued granting the Jews the right to defend themselves against their enemies. So that's how the people were saved. Okay? Is that they couldn't, because once a king's edict went out, you couldn't take it back. It couldn't be erased. You can't just go, okay, no, this is no good. It's null and void. We're going to cancel this. You can't do that. So the only way to save the people, the Jews, was to make a new edict through Mordecai, which was now the prime minister, that the Jews had the right to defend themselves by law. Okay, and so many people died. And on the 13th of Adar, the Jews mobilized and killed many of their enemies. And on the 14th of Adar, they rested and celebrated. So in the capital of the city of Shushan, they took one more day to finish the job. Okay, and that is the basic of it. Okay, the word Purim means lots, basically like lottery in ancient Persian. The holiday was named this because of Haman had made a lottery to determine what day that this plan of his would happen on. Okay, and the pronunciation is Purim, 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 or Purim or Purim. It's P-O-O, so it's more like Rim, Purim. Okay, so Purim. Among Westerns, it's often called Purim, 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 P-U-H-R-U-M. Some Central Europeans communities even call it Purim, calling this holiday Purim is English speakers are sometimes want to do is surefire newbie cover blown. In other words, if you mispronunciate the word, it's a really quick way to know that you're a novice, you're a noob, you're not of these people. Okay. You can read of the story of the Megillah, okay, in the book of Esther. Okay. For those who are following the chapter readings, we will get into that when we get into Esther. Okay. It's going to be a bit. On this holiday, what is required? Giving money gifts to at least 2 poor people. So on this holiday, you give money gifts to 2 poor people. Doesn't matter what size the money gifts are, but it is money gifts to 2 very poor people of your choice. And you send gifts of 2 different kinds of food to at least 1 person. Okay, at least 1 person. Okay, and then the festival feast, which often includes wine and other beverages. Okay. Now there's a whole party. There's a whole. It's on the Jewish calendar, and there's a whole party. It's basically a day of like letting loose and just having a good time. There's lots of pastries and poppy seeds and sweet fillings. So a lot of dairies. So Jews will celebrate this on Adar 14, which would be this year would have been March 23rd and 24th. Okay, the walled cities do this on the 15th, most notably in Jerusalem. Okay, some small towns will do it on the 14th. What day it's done on doesn't really matter. It's just it's a holiday. It's mostly the Jewish holiday. Okay. So basically, in a nutshell, when it comes to obeying God or man, and the 2 things stand in opposition to each other, you're told to choose God's way and deny man's way. Okay, this is why the Jews were going to be slaughtered, because they didn't want to bow to the king. They didn't want to worship the king. They said, "No, sorry, we only worship the Lord God." Okay. So that is the basic in a nutshell of the Purim history, for the most part. Now, the other thing we need to figure out is on this day, are you allowed to work, for example? Are you allowed to work? Are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to do that? So, I'm looking at it real quick. Okay, so, they really have a whole lot of stuff here. Like tons and tons of stuff. What kind of gifts you should give. What is to be expected at the parties. The traditional greeting, where they say happy Purim, or however you pronounce it. Purim, I guess. Then the stuff that they do at the end of the Purim. Then there's the observances. Okay. The laws of giving half a shekel, which is a little bit of money. Doesn't say it has to be a lot of money. The laws and the lore, meaning the stories of it. Okay. Purim in a nutshell, meaning the story of Purim. But I guess to look at the holidays to figure out, I'd have to go all the way back. So, okay, here we go. It is a Passover celebrating the Jewish people in slavery in Egypt, and it is basically in the story of Esther. Okay, so on this holiday that they just finished, or are still finishing, no work is permitted. The reason why is because Shabbat. Because even though, so this is, oh no, that's Passover. My bad. Wrong one. Where the heck is Purim? Dude, where's Purim? Oh, that's the. Okay, so Purim, work should be avoided. Work should be avoided. It is Saturday, so it does fall on the Shabbat rule time. Okay, and that is always the case. No matter if no matter if the holiday falls on, as long as the holiday will fall on the Sabbath day, you still observe the Sabbath rules to not work of any kind. Okay. Now, a few days beforehand, on the 21st of March, they did what's called the Fast of Esther. And it is from dawn, meaning sunrise, all the way to sunset. They did a fasting held on the day before the jolly holiday of Purim, because on Purim they eat, right? So they do a fast and then eating on the holiday. And Purim so the fast is held on March 21st. So from March 21st all the way to March 23rd, they would have done fasting. And the evening of March 23rd is when they would have ate. So this would be roughly about a day and a half of fasting. And the fast is something that they do, and it is basically pronounced as Lent, if you will, which were more lentil in, and the direct name of this fasting is called the Fast of Esther. The Fast of Esther, also known as, see if I said it right, Tanit Esther. Tanit Esther. Okay. So that's the fast that comes before it. Okay. Now, then they have the Shushan Purim. That is the actual celebration days, which would be the 23rd and 24th this year. Next year it's going to be a different one. So I will actually be making a list. I have to write that down so I don't forget it. Okay. Make a list of all Jewish holidays 2024, okay, for the rest of 2024 for you guys. In any case, now remember, there's two words here. So the Talmud is the Jewish law book, basically. It's like the book of the law, basically. And then you have the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, which is obviously the first 5 books that we're going to be doing when we do the Old Testament. Okay? And now they give the whole story of how Purim was created and all this stuff. And in the land of Israel and everything like that. So it's basically a lot of history and stuff. So I'm going to go back and get this link real quick, all about Purim. And I'm going to drop that into the chat for everybody on that. And that's basically the Purim holiday for the most part. So now that I have that, then here's something. What to expect at the Purim party. So if you were to attend a Purim party, what would you expect to find? Okay. Lots of drinking, but not like getting drunk. Okay. At this party, people would be dressing up in silly costumes, like very funny looking costumes. And I'm talking about very funny. They have a picture of a guy in like some weird looking goofy costume, like just completely nuts. Okay. And sometimes they have a bit more fun and a bit to drink, but not a lot to drink. 3 viewers. Yeah, I see 2 on my screen, but if there's 3, I'm very happy for that. Okay. And they dress up in silly costumes, and otherwise they otherwise act in ways that you would never see them act during the rest of the year. Now, I don't believe this would be a sinful acting, like, oh, well, we're doing sinful stuff on this one day. No. It's still clean. It's just you're acting much differently, basically. You're letting loose. You're just having a fun. So the idea would be, majority of the time, the Jewish culture would act very kosher and very wonderful and very peaceful. But at this time of this holiday, on these holidays, this is kind of like their area of letting loose a little bit. Okay, so they just really have fun, and that's just some of the stuff they do. They eat lots of foods. Okay, and so they eat a lot of these foods, and they just enjoy a lot of these Jewish foods. Okay, people that are in costumes. They will hide behind costumes. Both adults and kids will dress up, whatever kinds of costumes. They will dress up as you would for a Shabbat meal, okay, as well. It's basically kind of like just come as yourself kind of thing. Work that is prohibited on Shabbat is permissible on Purim, unless Purim is on a Friday, okay? So basically, if Purim is on a Friday after sunset, then work would be obviously a no-no, okay? And the meal would coincide or be connected in the same way as Shabbat, okay? Work may be done if it's not on Shabbat, though. Ritual washing of your hands before meals, which is just kind of being very cleanly. And then they have European meals and stuff. Something called the kreplach. What is it? Kreplach, which is a meat-filled dumpling swimming in chicken soup, basically. A dumpling in chicken soup, if you want to call it that. There will be alcohol served, normally wine, because you don't get drunk, you just have a glass of wine. Many speeches would happen, many readings and stuff like that, sharing of the Torah, singing songs, performing skits as well, okay? And things would be done by that. And they would do specific Purim songs, specifically in honor of the holiday. And the meals may go very late in the nightfall. So these people might stay up to like really late in the morning, like 11, 12, 1, 2, or something like that, okay? And there was a celebration in the synagogues, which would be the churches. There would be parties, okay? And it is a very good celebration for Israel, basically, okay? And that's the basic of it. There is much reading, and even the kids dress up as old people, which is kind of cute, and they just have a lot of fun. They give gifts, as I mentioned before. On this holiday, you give gifts to at least 2 people that are poor, money gifts, and you give 2 different foods to at least 1 person on this holiday. So that's the holiday in a nutshell. And then sending of the food gifts, so it's like just kind of like how you would get an Easter basket, if you will. So it would just be you just handing out kind of like an Easter basket, which would kind of be a manat, if you will. It's food gifts so it's kind of like a basket. What they're showing here is a basket of like small bottle of wine, some little snacks, some tea, some chips, some popcorn, little stuff. But it's all like Jewish culture stuff. It's not the kind of culture that we deal with. It's like Jewish culture stuff. Okay. Just for the record. So, that is basically, in a nutshell, the Purim, okay? So, for those that are watching, you're going to get a little spoiler alert, okay? The next holiday coming up is Passover, okay? Passover, which is a very important one. It celebrates the Passover in Egypt. You don't remember? Egypt, Pharaoh, painting the blood on the doorposts, the passing over of the Spirit of God, right? That Passover, that's what they're celebrating, okay? And that is coming during the week of, I guess the week, if you will. I think it's a week, almost a little over a week, of April 22nd to April 30th. So next month, near the end of next month, is when Passover is going to occur. And I think that would be roughly about the same time as they would have Easter Sunday here. So here's the question for anybody watching, okay? I'm sharing to you the Jewish holidays because I want you to know the original holidays, okay, according to Jewish culture, because a lot of the holidays today are very corrupted and worldly, okay? I myself am moving out of a worldly-based secular holiday celebrating and into a godly, spiritual, religious, faith-based celebrating of the holidays, Whereas before I would do Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, all these different holidays. I'm not going to be doing that anymore. Okay. At least for myself. It's just something I want to do. I don't want to be associated with these paganistic holidays. Even if they started off with a Christian base, much like Valentine's Day, Christmas, and, Christmas, so St. Valentine's, St. Patrick's Day, as well as St. Nicholas, right? Those are all three saints, right, which would be Christians. Even though they had a beginning as religious, I'm more interested in what it is now. Now it's a secular, non-religious holiday, and I'm not going to associate with it. Okay. Anyway, Passover is the next one coming. There is no work permitted on this for any of the days that would fall on. So the days where you would not be working would be April 23rd, which I believe would be a Friday and Saturday, 23rd and 24th. And then again on April 29th and 30th, which I believe would be the next Friday and Saturday after that. Okay, so work is only permitted on April 25th and 26th and on April 28th, with certain restrictions, obviously. And they read the Yizkor, and we'll go into that when we do the Passover video. I have to make sure to write down when that is specifically. So April 22nd. So I have to make sure to do the video before April 22nd for you guys. So the question becomes, as a Christian, should you obey these holidays? You're not mandated to. Okay, you're not obligated to. You're not ordered to. You're not a Jew. Okay, it's not part of your culture. Okay, but you are allowed to enjoy these holidays. There's nothing against it. It is honorable to do. Okay, but you don't have to do it. Okay. But here's what I would say about any holiday that is secular, okay? And what I mean by secular is non-religious. Christmas, as it were in the world today. Santa Claus, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty, all that stuff, okay? You get the idea. If it's connected to non-religious things, you may be playing with fire by associating yourself with it. I've done that myself. I've bought so much Christmas stuff, not realizing what I'm doing, only to discover, okay, I need to toss this stuff out or get rid of it. Not all of it, obviously, but only the things that were associated with the paganistic side of it. Okay. So for me, like with Christmas, it was getting rid of anything with Santa Claus on it, anything with Rudolph, anything with reindeer, anything with Frosty the Snowman, anything that looked connected to those fictitious worldly things. I'm still going to dress up, but it's going to be in a different way for this Christmas. Another example is I'm not going to be doing a Christmas tree. I'm going to have either a cross, a wooden cross that's decorated with a wreath around it. Okay. So basically it's a cross. So here's my plan. Get a cross, sit in my living room. Okay. And I'm going to put a wreath that is draped over the arm bar. Okay. So the piece of wood going this way. And that wreath is going to have, or I should say that, the wreath I'm not talking about is the circle wreath. I'm talking about the long string-like ones. That's going to have lights on it, okay? And that's what's going to be draped for this Christmas. And if I do want to get presents, I'm going to sit at the base of that cross to reference to God that I'm thankful for whatever gifts I may get. And that is my way of changing from a secular to a more religious state of mind. Now, obviously, I'm not saved by what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm not saved by changing that up. But I am, in a way, very much disassociating with the ungodly side of it and reconnecting with the spiritual side of it, which is what God wants. Okay? So that's me, for example. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. And I will give the link, and I will also give the holidays and when they are occurring in the comments in the group chat. So thank you guys for joining, and have a great and wonderful day.